Greetings, mentors, colleagues, and friends. My name is Marie Edith Michel, and I'm humbled by the invitation to participate in this international webinar on Parks and Recreation Services for a socially just and equitable community. I'm really honored to be among such an accomplished group of professionals and academic experts from the field and practice of Parks and Recreation. I've learned a lot from the presentations of last week, and I want to thank you, Maliga, for inviting me to share my experience as a volunteer griot. So by day, I work for the Maryland National Park and Planning Commission, a 6-time award-winning Parks and Recreation agency, gold medal, that is, as a researcher, evaluation manager, strategic planner, and other duties as assigned, and there are a lot of them. And during my free time, I volunteer at the National Museum of African Art, the Smithsonian Institution. I'm a docent there, and I've been doing this for about 5 years. And up until about 3 months ago, I used to give tours, live tours, in our museum spaces, and would tell stories about some of those pieces of artwork. I wasn't the art type of docent that talked about the medium. I know the basic things, but I was the one who enjoyed understanding the historical context of a particular art piece and tried to provide that in my tours. Because for me, African art is emotional, it's political, and I believe that's one of the missions of the National Museum of African Art, is to share that context and to dispel some, I would call, myths and misconceptions, preconceptions that people have about Africa and therefore about its art and its history. So I jumped at the opportunity, as Malika calls it, a call for action. We got a similar call for action the last 4 months, from the museum as docents to provide opportunities to share and create opportunities to share our museum and our exhibits that are currently in there with our following, with our community. And so we call ourselves Watoto Readers. We've targeted sort of the children community, probably 4 to 10 years old. But based on the feedback, we get families who listen to us and adults who listen to us as well. And what I have done in particular is to use one particular exhibit called the Heroes exhibit. And I pull from there pieces of artwork that speak to heroes and sheroes of the African continent and the African diaspora. And that's what I love about that Heroes exhibit. And so my journey over the last few months has included providing stories about some of those heroes and sheroes and about those spaces, about the various cultures and continents in Africa. There's a wonderful piece in the exhibit. It's also part of the cover of the Heroes brochure that speaks to Haiti, to the Haitian revolutionary leader, Toussaint Louverture. And so as a daughter of Haitian parents and a Haitian American son, I, jumped at the opportunity to talk about that particular piece. And so what we also do is read stories from our own collection, because we had no time to go back to the museum to get books. And so one of the stories that I provided was on Haiti, the first Black Republic, by Frantz de Rosnecourt, who is actually a Haitian American first generation, who wrote the story based on fact of the Haitian Revolution. So this was one of the books that I read. And as a griot, I call myself a griot, a storyteller. I use a lot of props and music as a way of bringing in people. And so I did a simple alphabet book. A is for Africa, but I brought in the ABCs. 1, 2, 3, the Michael Jackson song, as a way of bringing people into the story. But I've been amazed at how some of these very simple children's books provide an opportunity to really delve in to some very significant issues of social justice, of equity, of civil unrest. In particular, the book Mama Africa, How Miriam Makeba Spread Hope with Her Song, was a Shiro story that I really enjoyed telling. And there were others as well. I'm going to share with you right now. Another one, Kofi and His Magic. While this one did not necessarily focus on a particular hero, it actually focused on a couple. The Shiro Queen, Ya Asentewa, and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, who are both featured in our museum. And so let's take a minute to bring you in to the first launch of What Toto Reads, with a story that I think Malika will appreciate and many of you will appreciate, our global hero, Madiba, the story of Nelson Mandela. Okay, so as I said earlier, I use a variety of props as a griot. So I wanted to share some of those very quickly. This always helps to shake things up a little bit and bring me in to the story. You've already experienced my drum. I have a little piano. And fortunately, some of these are instruments that we have in the museum. One really important item that I use is what I call the Sankofa bird. This is really important because the Sankofa bird from West Africa, from Ghana actually, while his feet are forward, his head goes back, is looking back. And so it symbolizes the importance of going back and fetching it, understanding your history. Go back and understand that. So this is an important tool, an important prop that I use for my stories. And the backdrop, I didn't, was here already, and I think symbolizes really well sort of how the griot operates in most of Africa and the Caribbean. It's usually an elder, and I'm an elder, so here I am. It's an elder who has the kids come around and sit around and share stories. But the stories often provide a moral lesson, provide some context for kids for them to think about. And so this is one of the ways that I believe we have been successful in trying to bring people in and connecting them to a variety of social justice and racial equity issues. Miriam Makeba's story obviously talks about apartheid and her role in apartheid, in bringing that system down. Toussaint Louverture was the revolutionary who freed the slaves from Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, the first Black republic to do that, to establish that in the entire universe. Just providing a various context for folks. And that's how I feel that we really do make the connection to the social justice movement. And so most of the stories are, like I said, from about known and unknown sheroes and heroes. It's amazing to me just how much about African history people don't know, and just how many myths and misperceptions people have of Africa. At our museum, a significant thread that we try to share is, the understanding and the connection that Africa is where all life began. And so lots of innovations and creativity that you can see within the masks, within the artwork that we provide. And so I really enjoy this oral tradition that we've been sharing. And some of the pieces have really inspired me, and I use the pieces as a tool to educate and to agitate, maybe a little bit as well. And we often bring in music as well, and simple poems like this one that I will share with you. Maya Angelou, Life Doesn't Frighten Me at All, and illustrated by the genius Jean-Michel Basquiat. So give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. Life Doesn't Frighten Me at All. Maya Angelou, paintings by Jean-Michel Basquiat. Of course, I would read this a little slower, but I wanted to give you a sense of how I do this. Life doesn't frighten me. Shadows on the wall, noises down the hall. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Bad dogs barking loud. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Big ghost in a cloud. Mean old mother goose, lions on the loose, they don't frighten me at all. Dragons breathing flame on my counterpane, that doesn't frighten me at all. I go boop, make them shoot. I make fun, way they run. I won't cry, so they fly. I just smile, they go wild. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Tough guys fight all alone at night. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Panthers in the park, strangers in the dark. No, they don't frighten me at all. That new classroom where boys all pull my hair, they don't frighten me at all. Kissy little girls with their hair in curls, they don't frighten me at all. Don't show me frogs and snakes and listen for my scream. If I'm afraid at all, it's only in my dreams. I've got a magic charm that I keep up my sleeve. I can walk the ocean floor and never have to breathe. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Not at all. Life doesn't frighten me at all. So the message would be that, to be a superhero, to be a freedom fighter, to be out there, as a supporter of racial justice and equity, might be a little fearful, and we all have some of those fears. It's actually how I got involved with this storytelling activity, because I knew, given what we don't know about COVID, that at this point in my life, I couldn't be out in the street protesting, even though my heart was really there. And so storytelling for me is my opportunity to share that. One couple of other stories that I shared. I had one that was written by a friend of mine when she was a child. And during the recovery period, Ramadan was going on. And so I shared a segment of her book that she wrote as a child. Very interesting book in terms of just trying to clarify for people what the Ramadan festival was about. So I will share that with you in just a minute. I'm back. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed that segment. One particular read that I did that kind of had me, struck a little bit was from this book, Kofi and His Magic. So Kofi is a young man who lives in Ghana, and he is a kente weaver. And he also just loves to explore other cultures and other people in his country, Ghana. And so he believes he has magic because the Ashanti stool kind of, is part of his aura. And it's a force within him. For a 7-year-old boy, he feels very proud, and he's adventurous. And so he believes that the Ashanti stool provides him with a little bit of magic. And so when I was reading this passage, it struck me because 2019 was the 400th year remembrance of, the first slave, African slave, to arrive on our U.S. shores. And so this young man closes his eyes and sits down and closes his eyes and opens his mind and travels across Ghana. And he finds himself with his friend Kofi at a lake wide and blue, that we become afraid. But someone tells us that what we are looking at is not a lake, but the Atlantic Ocean. So here they are. It has a wonderful smell and a wonderful roar, like a soft roll of thunder in the raining season. And the water tastes salty. And so I asked the kids, why do you think they are a little bit sad? Why do you think the water tastes salty? Probably because their ancestors, a great-grandparent, a grandparent, probably a great-grandparent, probably was looking at the same ocean for the last time and was brought across to the North Atlantic, across the ocean to the United States as a slave. And mishaps like what just happened sometimes do happen as well, because we don't have any, film crew in the house helping. I'm basically using my cell phone. And that was probably the most challenging aspect of this undertaking, was having enough confidence in believing that I could do this. And so still working out some of the kinks with the technology. But I want to close by saying and by encouraging you as Parks and Recreation professionals that it's important that we walk the talk. So we have a health and wellness role, and we need to make sure that we are healthy and well mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that's the primary reason that I got involved in this, was because I saw it as an opportunity to release some stress. Those first, the week after, well, even, the day after George Floyd's video was all over the place, I was very stressed out. My son lives in Minneapolis, about 2 miles away from where all of that is happening. And as an African American son, I know that it's not easy and it's difficult, for him to be, in a space where people won't necessarily see him as a threat. So volunteering and being this Docent Griot has really helped me, release some of that stress and channel the energy that I have to a positive direction. And so it's really kind of based on some of the feedback that we get, some of the likes and some of the comments, I feel like we've brought some joy to the world to hear and to experience. And also, I think we've educated a number of people based on, oh, I didn't know. Thank you for sharing that information about the Kenyan lady who, in support of Earth Day. And so I'm really pleased by that. And we heard from our director of the museum that doing this has really kind of helped our engagement efforts during this quarantine time, social distancing time, whatever they call it. And so we had, within the first week, we had over 2,500 views and 100 likes and 50 shares. And for the 6 or 8 weeks that we did it, we had regularly about 7,000 views as a direct result of our stories. And so I'm really pleased that the community has embraced what we're trying to do. Being a griot is fun. It allows me to be creative. I think we have enough Zoom meetings, conferences, and lectures. Creating all of that is wonderful, and the paycheck is needed, and that's why we do that. But this is my way of activism during these times, and I recommend it highly to those who love to conduct research, who love to read, and are searching for a way to build community in a safe way. I think art is a powerful ally in the fight for social justice. It gives voice to the unheard and visibility to the marginalized. It conveys a sense of urgency, emotion, and advocacy. And I really do believe that it brings magic to the fight for social justice. These are really very difficult times that we're in. And so I usually end with a reminder to the children to wash their hands and spread a little love. Thank you.